So I had recorded this video, but then I found out when I got to the end that after 2 hours of recording that I had my microphone on mute, so I didn't get the sound. So I'm going to try to provide a voice track to the video and try to reconstruct what I actually said during this video, which it may be impossible to catch or to recall everything that I said, but I'm going to try to do so. Now this video, it deals with Miriam, the sister of Moses, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, sometimes called the Virgin Mary. So it deals with two figures who are much beloved in their respective religions. And so I want it understood that I'm not in this video attempting to disrespect these figures, whether they're historical or not. What I'm trying to do is to see through the narrative and get to either the real truth of the matter or alternative meanings that may have been intended in the literature. In the case of Miriam, the sister of Moses, we're talking about the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and in the case of the Mary, the mother of Jesus, we're mostly talking about the Gospels. Although there are other early Christian works which deal with Mary, the mother of Jesus. So, and you say, well, why do you call him Jesus? Because that's the name in Greek in the text. It's the most easily proven version of his name, with others being either speculation or bad transliteration, like in the case of Jesus. The pronunciation of the name Jesus as Jesus is an impossibility in either Hebrew or Greek, because there was no hard J sound in either of those languages. So, and then some people will come back and they'll say, well, Jesus is the translation. No, Jesus is not the translation. Translation is when you convey the ideas and the concepts of words over from one language to another, whereas transliteration is trying to carry over the sounds of a word from one language to another. So Jesus is an attempt at transliteration, but it's a really bad one because there's also a Y sound in English. So you could more accurately pronounce his name Jesus with using a Y. And that would be a more accurate attempt at transliteration. Anyway, so I just refer to him as Jesus because that's what's in the Greek. Now, anyway, so let's try to do this. Being that this video is 2 hours long, I'll probably try to break it up into 2 parts. I'd rather it was one part, but I mean it's probably going to wind up being longer than 2 hours if you couple the two parts together, strictly because I'm having to try to reconstruct what it was I was saying. I could go through the video and then jot down all the references, and then, as you could see, there are quite a few of them. And then I could try to do it from there, but that would be probably even more effort, and I'm going to try to do it this way. So Google tells us, when we asked the question, was Moses' sister Miriam married? Google tells us, unlike most women in the Bible, and this is from the Jewish Women's Archive, unlike most women in the Bible, Miriam is never called wife or mother. She has neither husband nor children. Jewish traditions, however, cannot tolerate her status as single. So I don't know what the political or ideological bent of this Jewish Women's Archive is. But from the way they're talking, it makes me almost think they might be like Reform, liberal Jews. But anyway, I'll continue. I could always check and see, but I'm not going to bother with it. Jewish traditions, however, cannot tolerate her status as single. The historian Josephus deems Hur the husband of Miriam in Antiquities 354 and C. Exodus chapter 17, verses 10 through 12. So, where is our prompt here? So, here we are, we're looking up the name Miriam in Hebrew. It's Hebrew Strong's number. Looks like 4613. My cursor is in the way. No, 4813. So then we're looking at occurrences of Miriam. And it points out that in Greek it was transliterated as Maria, it looks like. The sister of Moses, a prophetess. Excuse me. So now it looks like we're looking up occurrences of Moses and Aaron, because it's interesting that Josephus would connect Hur with Miriam. So now we see Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill in Exodus 17:10. Whereas Micah 6:4 says, I sent before thee Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, Aaron being the brother of Moses. And let's look at that. So we got Moses and Aaron. Aaron and Moses, Moses and Aaron. So most of the time Moses and Aaron. Most of the time it's Moses and Aaron, it looks like. What about if we search for Moses and Miriam? Well, then there's Miriam and Aaron. Aaron spake against Moses. Um, and Creator spoke suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam. So there's the three in Numbers 12. And she bare Aaron and Moses and Miriam in Numbers 26:59. And first was that Chronicles chapter 6 verse 3. And the children of Amram, Aaron and Moses and Miriam. And then again Micah 6:4. Let's see. And then I guess we're looking at occurrences of Hur. So Exodus 17:10 was the first occurrence of Hur. Unless, let's see. So yeah, Exodus 17:10. Whereas Miriam shows up at Exodus 15:20. And there are no verses containing Hur and Miriam in the same verse. So let's continue. Go ahead, type something. Yeah, so it looks like I'm kind of headed in the same direction I just was. But I'm not sure what conclusions I was drawing from it, except to investigate Hur. Okay, so Numbers 12:15. And then Numbers 19. So was that Numbers 12:15? So Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And then we don't see Miriam mentioned again until Numbers 20, verse 1, where it mentions that Miriam died. However, what we do have And so Numbers 21, if we back up, just one verse, then we have the ordinance of the red heifer. And then the very next verse in the next chapter says that Miriam died. So my suspicion is that the red heifer is a memorial or a commemoration of Miriam, the sister of Moses, and that maybe this was a way to help the children of Israel who loved Miriam to deal with their grief. So in verse 12, well, verse 9, basically they say something like, it said, are we not also prophets, I think? And here in number 6 it says, anyway, so I think they said something like, are we not also prophets? And that was considered murmuring. Let me see. Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, has the Creator indeed spoken only by Moses? Has he not spoken also by us? Maybe that was a rhetorical question, I don't know. And the Creator heard it. And then this is the famous parenthetical verse that says, now the man Moses was very meek or humble above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And then so people say, well, if Moses wrote these books, then how is he calling himself humble? And then you can search it out, you get different explanations for that. Some might even call them apologetics. But you have to remember that Moses Moses said of himself that he was uncircumcised of tongue, I think it was, or uncircumcised of lips. And some people say that might be because he had a speech impediment. I kind of wonder if he wasn't just saying that he maybe had like an Egyptian accent, having grown up in the court of Pharaoh. But Moses obviously saw himself as not being someone who would have been a very good public speaker, so that he needed Aaron, his brother, to be his spokesperson, so that whereas the Creator was the deity to Moses, then Moses was somewhat in the parallel relationship of being I don't think you need to take this literally, but being deity to Aaron, in other words, like he, just as the Creator gave the words to Moses, then Moses then gave them to Aaron, and then Aaron would speak them. So anyway, but the punishment of this, and what's interesting is it because it says, and they said, but then what happens is the anger of the Creator was kindled against them, and he departed, and the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead. I think this was like a foreshadowing, maybe, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. So like an aborted fetus. And Moses cried unto the Creator, saying, Heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. And the Creator said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people didn't journey until Miriam was brought in again. But then we don't see a verse where it says that she was brought in again. So she was struck with leprosy, and then we get this institution of the ordinance, the red heifer, where it says, let's see, he that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. Here it says that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish. And I thought that there was, let's see if I can get it. I thought there was, let's see. Jeez, the archaic English of the New King James Version is really not helpful sometimes. And it's not for want of using the King James Version. I've used it quite a bit when I was younger. So that's all 19. And then there's nothing else in the Torah about the red heifer. So I guess the connection you have to draw then is from, I think, at least the Mishnah, where it talks about the requirements for finding a red heifer that doesn't have any blemishes. And it's very similar to the inspection of a person with leprosy, Let me see if it says hairs here. No, a white hair. Yeah, Leviticus 13:3, and the priest shall examine the disease spot on the skin of his body, and if the hair in the disease spot has turned white, and the disease appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is a leprous disease. When the priest has examined him, he shall pronounce him unclean. But if the spot is white in the skin of his body and appears no deeper than the skin, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest shall shut up the diseased person for 7 days. And then there's just more details about, the diagnosis of leprosy and whether it's cleared up or not. And I think, if I remember correctly, the Mishnah has more directions along these lines in the case of the red heifers. So there's a thematic correlation there, I think. So I take that as another evidence, aside from the proximity in the text, which, according to rabbinical hermeneutics, is or can be taken as a sign that the two seemingly irrelevant or unconnected matters are actually connected. So I really think that the red heifer was a commemoration for the death of Miriam. Because if we look after Numbers 12, the next verse is that she had died. And here it says, Deuteronomy chapter 20, take heed in the plague of leprosy. Remember what the Creator, your God, did to Miriam by the way. And yeah, so anyway, it's just it's kind of sad. So it makes me wonder if what she did, and the thing is, like, Aaron is not similarly punished, right, as far as we can see, and maybe it's because he was still needed to be a spokesman for Moses, or maybe it was because he was a priest. I don't know, but nevertheless, the text says that Miriam was struck with leprosy, and we don't see that she was healed of it. We don't see a statement that says she was brought back into the camp, only that she died. However, with the red heifer, what we have is a ritual that is necessary for many of the rituals of the temple. First, of the tabernacle in the wilderness, or the tent of meeting or tent of witness in the wilderness, and then later of the static temple in the city in which the Creator would place his name, which came to be Jerusalem eventually. So let's continue. Yeah, so then after Miriam dies, then there's no water for the congregation of Israel, and then the people looks like they murmured against Moses the same way that Aaron and Miriam did, not the exact same way. And then they even make the connection. They say, "Why have you brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness that we and our cattle should die there?" So then there's an equation of the children of Israel with cattle there, which also seems to hint at the connection between uh, the mention of the death of Miriam and the institution of the ritual of the red heifer in the verse before it. But let's see, this word chode. King James Version, Blue Letter Bible, that's Numbers 20. And the word is reeb, like spelled rib, to strive or contend with. Okay, but it's not the same word used for Aaron and Miriam. So it's a different kind of action, apparently. Excuse me. Let's move along, move along. There's another connection. So the water out of the rock, this is in verse 8. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. Here they mention this as being Meribah. Oh, I see. The Revised Standard Version likes to put apostrophes in things, and it makes it hard to use the search engine um, to find those words, those proper names. So, Meribah. Here it's got Meribah. Meribah. It looks like Mariba. Yeah, see, there's a small e there, like a schwa. It's Mariba, but here they've got it as Meriba, which is not, at least according to my learning, is not correct. So that's 4809, whereas Miriam is 4813. So in the Hebrew dictionary of the Tanakh, basically, Miriam is 4 words off of Meribah. Yeah, and here Meribah means strife or contention. And oh, yeah, and the people contended, and that word is reeb. So so that word reeb, contended, is part of the word Meribah. These are the waters of Meribah, where the people of Israel contended with the Creator, and he showed himself holy among them. Because you did not believe in me to sanctify me in the eyes of the people of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. So this is like a parallel of Moses or Aaron and Miriam, except that Miriam is the one that's disqualified from. They didn't sanctify Moses in the eyes of the people of Israel, therefore they shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them, so that Miriam died. See, when you when you the Hebrew Tanakh is very deep literature. Like, a Gentile picks up a translation, however imperfect, and all they're getting is the surface reading of the text, and they're not seeing what's going on in the Hebrew. They don't really place any importance or trust on Jewish oral tradition, which is the oral tradition of the people whose entire lives were consumed by the Torah. Whereas, your average Christian is probably watching Monday Night Football. Your average observant Jew is probably keeping up with their Torah and Haftorah portions and their Daf Yomi and who knows what else, right? Because I certainly never got to that level. So, and and it's all focused on Torah, either the study of Torah or throughout the day they're living Torah. So, but a Gentile picks up an imperfect translation, and suddenly they're experts, and the Jews don't know their own scriptures, is what we're supposed to believe. And many Gentiles do believe that simply because Gentile literature tells them that. But if they actually interacted with Torah observant Jews, and not, not just Torah observant but Torah knowledgeable Jews, and they actually listen to them a little bit, they would realize how much they don't know. So anyway, let's continue. And then in Numbers 20, then Aaron dies on the border of the land of Edom. Oh, wow. See? Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the people of Israel, because you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. And then, of course, later, Moses doesn't enter the land either. But anyway, so what I was saying was this literature is so deep that you must conclude that these are based on some some historical events. It may not be like a history where we have like three different peer-reviewed historians all providing the same details which corroborate with one another, and but um, it's it's the kind of history you would expect from a culture that had literature that was handed down through custodians who were had the responsibility to make sure that the literature was preserved. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son and bring them up to Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments and put them upon Eleazar his son, and Aaron shall be gathered to his people and shall die there. And they went up to Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. And I just want to look at this Mount Hor. Another form of Har. So Har. Hor means mountain. So mountain. That seems a little redundant. But what I want to see, there's Har. Hor, Hara, mountain land, but Hara, Harel. Okay, so Hor is 2023. Hor must be a different character, whereas Hor is 2354 because it's not a hay, I think it's a het. It's been a while. I just need the, where did it go? Het, yeah, it's a het. So, not the same sound. Alright, anyway, I'm getting distracted. Let's see. But when you start delving into the Hebrew, you start getting a look at how deep this literature is. So let's continue if we can. Yeah, and there I am investigating Meriba. And then that's the red heifer. Wait a second, why did I go back to the red heifer? And then that's back to the Jewish Women's Archive. So there was this picture when I searched for Miriam and the red heifer, and I don't know who this is supposed to be, but she had, it looks like a female, but then the feet, I don't know, the bare feet, I don't know. I don't know who painted this, whether it's a Renaissance painting or what. But it suggested that Miriam may have had red hair if this is supposed to be Miriam. And then it has Miriam inspecting the red heifer to make sure it doesn't have any blemishes. I'm just curious. What color was the hair of Miriam, the sister of Moses? It doesn't specify her hair color, so it's impossible to say definitively what her hair color was. Some interpretations of the text suggest that Miriam's sister Zipporah was a woman of African descent, but this is a matter of interpretation and not a definitive statement. So I guess there's nothing said, but if the red heifer is a memorial or a commemoration of Miriam, then that would suggest to me that either Miriam had reddish color skin, or maybe she had red hair. But yeah, so when I first noticed the proximity of the red heifer with Miriam's death, that made me search to see if there was anything about Miriam and the red heifer, and that's when this picture came up, which this isn't the best. Let's see if I could find it. There it goes. Okay. So, but I don't know if this is actually Miriam. I assume it is with this, but then I don't know. Maybe it's a priest, but it's probably, like I said, I don't know who painted this. We can't say for certain that this is supposed to be Miriam, although the title is Miriam and the Red Heifer. But it wouldn't be Miriam who would be inspecting the red heifer, I don't believe, to see that it didn't have any blemishes. So it's almost like they are drawing the connection between Miriam and the red heifer. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, in Greek it's Maria. Now some translations of Miriam have it as stubborn or obstinate, but when I brought that up, the local Orthodox rabbi seemed to be a bit offended by that. But there was another lady. There was a lady there who I think, I don't know if she was Israeli or what, but I took it that she was Jewish, and she agreed somewhat that the name meant that. But I think there was supposed to be another word that it could possibly mean. See, here it says Miriam means rebellion. And it's from Marie. So, whereas Reb means contend, Marie means rebellious. Concretely bitter or rebellious. Bitterness. Wasn't there something about... No, Bitterness. Bitterness. So there was another tradition. I don't know if it's going to be covered here, about some kind of well of Miriam that was supposed to have well of Miriam. Miriam's well is also listed in the Mishnah in Avot 5 and 6 among the 10 miraculous items created at twilight on the 6th day of creation. This miraculous well did not just issue water, it also followed Miriam and therefore wandered in the wilderness together with the congregation. So, again, by proximity, they say Miriam died there and was buried there. The congregation had no water. So, from the juxtaposition of Miriam's death and the water shortage, the sages of Talmud understand that for all the previous 40 years they did have a ready water source, and that it was in Miriam's merit. In fact, the Talmud explains that the three gifts the Jews had in the desert, the well of water, the pillar of clouds, and the manna, were in the merit of Miriam, Aaron, and Moses, respectively. What is the connection between Miriam and water? The Zohar explains that Miriam stood by the waters of the Nile River and watched over her baby brother Moses to ensure he would be safe. The Midrash connects the well to Miriam's exuberant praise after the splitting of the sea. Since she was so grateful for a miracle that occurred through water, God rewarded her with water, for which the Jewish people sang even more praise. Some commentators explain that the rock itself didn't actually roll with them, rather the stream of water that originated from the rock would spring up in their new location. It is the same rock that after Miriam died, Moses hit in order to draw forth water once again in Numbers. Let's go back to Numbers 20. So I'm going somewhere with all of this, but it might take a couple parts. But I think it's worth it for unraveling the events of the first century, which were so pivotal, um, that resulted in the destruction of the temple. So, hear now, you rebels. So there's that word rebels. Said unto them, hear now, you rebels, Marah. So that's like a similar to Marie, with the mem and resh construction at the beginning. Must we fetch you water? Must we fetch you water out of this rock? So, and Moses and Aaron said, must we fetch you water out of this rock? So it's like, without Miriam there, now they had to be the ones to do it. And Moses lifted up his hand with his rod, he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. See, but this would be this could result in an even darker interpretation here, in that he smote the rock twice. And then right after, oh, right. Okay, Moses and Aaron were both told they wouldn't they wouldn't be going into the land. So they were told that at the same time. It wasn't just Aaron. It's certainly a sad episode. Or to me, it seems sad. I don't know. Someone may have a different perspective on it that I'm not aware of. So I should probably speak some words on leprosy and the connection with Lashon Hara. So Lashon Hara, or evil speech or evil tongue, that's using your tongue to speak in evil ways. That could be by, murmuring against the Creator's chosen servant at the time. It could be by telling lies about someone. It could be just disclosing someone's personal information, even if it's good information, because if, for example, you disclose someone else's good news to a third person, that person may get envious, and then it may come back to bite the first person who got the good news. So, but Lashon Hara isn't something that I've studied that much, but it's definitely part of Torah observant Judaism. So if Judaism is something you want to understand, then you probably should research the laws on Lashon Hara. Let's see. Because, for one, like passages that Gentiles have understood a certain way, Jews will often understand in a completely surprising different way. And Gentiles will think that, oh, it's the Jews perverting the scriptures, when it's really the ignorant Gentiles who don't understand the scriptures, and that's why they haven't arrived at the same conclusions that the Jews have. So it's the same way with Judaism in general. Judaism is, I think it's safe to describe it as a for Gentiles a very alien religion. It's very different, and the mindsets are different. The worldview is different. The ways of looking at things are different, and and really, I think it's very difficult to understand unless you yourself are Jewish and you've lived in a Jewish community for most of your life, or at least a good portion of it. Um, it could just be, I think, very difficult to understand the Jewish perspective. Which is why you should give a Jewish person a chance to explain anything that you don't understand, rather than giving a knee-jerk racist reaction to what you don't understand. So let's go back to the video. So in the Christian scriptures, or the Christian addendum, there are quite a few Marys. And last night, when I was thinking about that, it reminded me of the name of a band, which I don't really know its music, but I think it's called Jesus and the Mary Chain. The Jesus and Mary Chain. I thought it was Jesus and the Mary Chain. The Jesus and Mary Chain. Oh, so maybe it's not that there's a chain of Marys. Thinking it was Jesus and the Mary Chain, I thought maybe it was acknowledging that in the Christian scriptures, the Christian addendum, you've got this chain of Marys. Now, Mary, or Miriam, in a Jewish culture, you might expect that a lot of girls might be named Miriam. But there's an awful lot of them in the Christian scriptures. Like you don't see so many Jesuses in the Christian scriptures, which you might expect in a Jewish setting, given that Joshua is a pretty common name in Judaism, because Joshua was a beloved figure held in honor in the Torah. So before we proceed with this, I need to get back to leprosy. So in I have heard it taught that whereas we think that Miriam was so rejected or rejected by the Creator because or punished by the Creator because of her Lashon Hara, her evil speech, I have heard it taught that people who are smitten with leprosy, real biblical leprosy, Sara'as, I think it is, or Sara'at, that these are very holy people. And I think it was said that one way we know this, in the case of Miriam, one way we know it is that she was mentioned in the Torah as frequently as she was, and usually in very positive ways. So there's that. But even a person that's maybe just mentioned once and seems to be a villain, I think it's also been taught that even those people might be actually very righteous people in comparison. Otherwise, their name might not have even been included in the Torah. But in the case of someone stricken with leprosy, it's usually associated with the sin of Lashon Hara, which seems to be the case with Miriam. There was another example also, and that was King Uzziah. And then, let me see if I could find that. Excuse me. And if I remember correctly, I think his name is the same as someone else's name, but just off by one letter, so that some think that the two might be the same person. Anyway, let's see here. So then Uzziah was angry. Again, it's the King James. Oh, that drives me nuts. Why won't this thing default to the... Oh, right. So it's using an apostrophe somewhere, so we can't find Uzziah in the Revised Standard Version. So Uzziah was angry, had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and while he was angry with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of the Creator from beside the incense altar. Let's click on that, and now I can switch to the Revised Standard. So they withstood King... Let's see. So they're saying, Uzziah, when he was strong, he grew proud to his destruction, for he was false to the Creator, and entered the temple of the Creator to burn incense on the altar of incense. But Azariah the priest went in after him with 80 priests of the Creator who were men of valor. So that's was it Ein Zadi or Zain Resh Yud Hey, and that's Ein Zain Yud Hey. So that's like the same name as Azariah. How did we get there? And then this is, so this adds a resh, which could be pretty funny in a second because so he went in with, was it say 80 priests, and they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, "It is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Creator, but for the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have done wrong, and it will bring you no honor from the Creator, your deity." Then Uzziah was angry. Now he had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and when he became angry with the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead in the presence of the priests in the house of the Creator by the altar of incense. And the Azariah the chief priest and all the priests looked at him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they thrust him out quickly, and he himself hastened to go out, because the Creator had smitten him. And King Uzziah was a leper to the day of his death, and being a leper dwelt in a separate house, for he was excluded from the house of the Creator. And Jotam, his son, was over the king's household, governing the people of the land. So, like as with Miriam, after he's struck with leprosy, it results in his death. Eventually, he was a leper to the day of his death. He was never healed of it. Now, where it says he was leprous in his forehead, that word is meitzach, conspicuous, brow or forehead. It's translated forehead 11 times, impudent once, and brow once. So, what I was expecting, which didn't happen, was that forehead would be translated from the word head, rosh. So it was looking to me like the letter resh that was in Azariah, but not in the name Uzziah, might have been like it was missing, from the name Uzziah. Just as Uzziah was stricken in his head, properly forehead, with leprosy, Uzziah was lacking the resh that was in the name Azariah, which would have made him someone who would have been permitted to burn the incense. But this word resh, translated head 349 times, also means head as a leader. So we could say that Uzziah didn't have the resh to lead in this respect, or that he failed as a leader when he did that. So, uh, but is that a case of Lashon Hara? Did King Uzziah commit Lashon Hara when he did that? He did, however, do presume to an office or a role that was not his, and this is something that I think, like, non-Jews don't understand about Judaism. Non-Jews tend to see any kind of hierarchy as, especially in spiritual matters, as like some kind of insult if you're not allowed to assume an upper level in the hierarchy. But just as in Judaism you're not supposed to be less than what you're supposed to be, you're also not supposed to presume to be more than what you're supposed to be. Now, usually people get that they're not supposed to be less than what they're supposed to be, but the Gentile mind can't quite understand that it's not supposed to be more, or is not supposed to presume to be more than what it's supposed to be. They regard that with suspicion. They think that that's the man keeping them down, you know. And you get stories like in the Mishnah where, I think it was in the Mishnah, might have been in later commentary in the Talmud on the Mishnah, about how a given Gentile wanted to become the high priest of Israel. You know, he wanted to convert, and then he wanted to become high priest of Israel. He automatically thought like he was deserving of the highest position, you know, in the Israelite religious system, if you want to call it that, or the Israelite religious hierarchy. But and so what they do is that they pose like some easy problems that a Jew would have understood, and but that a Gentile wouldn't understand, and then that exposes that that the Gentile is not qualified to be the high priest. So, but what they don't understand is that these roles that happen, they're not they're not necessarily better. They're more different, or more set apart, or sanctified. Like the and that even before you even get into the priestal system or priestal hierarchy, you've got hierarchies in lower stages, with like, I think at Passover or the Day of Atonement, they ask the question, what's the question? It's something like Israelite, Kohen, Levite. And let me see if I could find that. Because they're trying to find out who can fulfill different roles during the Day of Atonement. I'm not seeing it here. At least not like this. Um, yeah, I'm not seeing it here. Anyway, but I can draw another example. Um, Men and women have different um, commandments of the Torah that apply to them, right? So one doesn't make uh, any of those commandments doesn't make one of them better than the other. They just they have different situations and then different laws that apply to them. Um, the leper has laws that apply to him that don't apply to a child of Israel, at least until there are signs of leprosy that crop up on the skin of the child of Israel. Right? So, I mean, the child of Israel, or the leper, is still a child of Israel, but then, um, these are two different circumstances. Now, once they've been diagnosed with leprosy, then um, they have different circumstances, you know. So, um, let's see. There's, I think there's even like the case of a mamzer, one who is ill-begotten. I think is how it's translated sometimes. Some translate it as a bastard, but I think it's a mamzer is basically someone who's produced from a forbidden uh, sexual relationship. Yeah. According to Halacha, a mamzer is the offspring of relationship that is incestuous or forbidden on pain of death. For example, an adulterous affair. The mamzer is ostracized from Jewish society. Even today, the Israeli chief rabbinate does not permit a person who has been deemed a mamzer to marry. So that's a person that falls into another. Yeah, it's a child born from a relationship considered forbidden by biblical law, or the descendant of such a person is generally barred from marrying into the community of Israel. So it's it's not a deal where like being the high priest of Israel is where you sit around and you say, hey, it's good to be the high priest, because you got all these benefits. There are duties that go along with these roles, that have to be fulfilled, and people act like, oh, it'd be such a great thing to be like one of the Jewish Kohanim, and you're getting to eat maybe meat all the time or something. But these are people that are, having to slaughter and offer and sacrifice these animals, at least when the temple was functioning, and they had to do so, in the hot sun, or if there was snow when it was snowing, or in the rain, or what. I assume they offered them in the rain also. I don't know if weather, if the game got rained out, when these things were supposed to be done, I would imagine in a timely fashion, given, how meat can spoil and animals need to be fed, and they can't just be standing around waiting all the time. Anyway, but it's, and that's like it's a lifetime office, a lifetime duty. You don't just get to leave it just because you feel like it. Just because the mood strikes you. I'm sure that there's a heavenly demerit for doing that. Anyway, so let's continue. I haven't really got very far into this. Let's see. Here it translates Maria as indeclinable, obstinacy, rebelliousness. One translation I saw said stubborn. All right, I think I'll stop here because now we're going into another concept. So only, is that right? Only 9 minutes into the video of a 2-hour video? That doesn't look like 9 minutes. Because it's not. What does that 902 mean? The number over here is not changing. Why isn't it changing? Oh, it's 2814. Alright, so I'll stop there. And so this will be a part 1. Looks like at this rate could be 4 parts. Anyway, I'll try to do better.